Welcome to This Explainer. We've got this deeply ingrained myth in our society, this idea that a high IQ score practically guarantees smart decision-making. We kind of just equate raw intelligence with being rational, right? We assume that if someone can absolutely ace a standardized test, well, they're automatically going to make excellent life choices. But here's the thing. Modern psychology and cognitive science, they are telling us a completely different story. Today, we're going to break down the hidden systems of true intelligence. We'll see exactly why some incredibly smart people consistently act, well, foolishly. And more importantly, we're going to look at how you can upgrade your very own cognitive operating system. To see exactly how this works in real time, I want you to look at a famous puzzle. It's from Shane Frederick's Cognitive Reflection Test. Okay, read it carefully with me. If it takes 5 machines 5 minutes to make 5 widgets, how long would it take 100 machines to make 100 widgets? Now, just listen to the very first answer that pops into your head. I'm guessing your instinct immediately screamed 100, right? I mean, it just feels so naturally right. But the correct answer is actually 5. Think about it. It takes 1 machine 5 minutes to make 1 widget. Therefore, 100 machines running simultaneously would take 5 minutes to make 100 widgets. Now, hey, don't worry at all if you got it wrong. When they tested this on students at elite universities, we're talking Harvard and Princeton, a huge percentage of them totally failed it. This brilliantly illustrates how our brains instinctively jump to the wrong intuitive answer unless we actively put the brakes on and engage our slow, deliberative, logical processing. Let's look at a pretty high-profile example of this divide between raw processing power and reflective thinking. Former U.S. President George W. Bush is estimated to have an IQ of over 120. That literally places him in the top 10% of the population. Yet, he actually self-described his own thinking style as not very analytical. So what does this all mean? Well, it shows us that you can have an incredibly powerful mental engine, high working memory, super quick processing speed, but that absolutely does not automatically mean you possess the reflective, rational disposition to use that engine effectively. And that brings us to this fantastic visual metaphor from Harvard researcher David Perkins. He says IQ measures the brightness of the searchlight, but where we point it also matters. I love that. Think of intelligence as just raw wattage. It's basically the capacity of your brain to process complex data. But true rationality, that is where you aim the beam. Are you pointing it only at things that confirm what you already believe? Or are you actually brave enough to point that high wattage light right toward your own blind spot? So, understanding the distinction between these two is absolutely crucial. Intelligence is all about brain power and memory span. Rational thinking, though, as the renowned psychologist Daniel Kahneman puts it, is really about cognitive control. It's your ability to override those super fast, intuitive biases that just want to rush to a conclusion. Look, IQ tests measure your capacity to reason, but they completely fail to measure your inclination to actually use that reasoning out in the real messy world. Section 1. The Smart Fool. Let's look at the everyday habits of weak cognitive effort. You see, the way your brain operates on a daily basis is shaped by your habits, not just your genetics. And the first major red flag here is cognitive impulsiveness. Basically, this is jumping straight to an intuitive response and flat out refusing to slow down or check it. When someone constantly rushes to the first answer, just like we saw in the widget puzzle, it really signals a reluctance to engage the deeper thinking skills needed to solve complex problems. And over time, taking that easy mental path literally weakens your brain's problem-solving capacity. Then, of course, we have the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is a severe lack of cognitive awareness, where people genuinely believe they're highly intelligent precisely because they lack the capacity to even notice their own errors. A massive red flag of weak cognitive effort is being highly overconfident while consistently refusing to accept feedback or, refusing to admit when you're just playing wrong. And let's be honest here, we all know someone exactly like this. Let's rapidly run through a few more of these behavioral red flags. First, speaking in absolute black and white terms, like using always or never. That shows a brain actively avoiding the friction of nuance. Next up, avoiding tasks that require real mental effort. Or how about talking nonstop just to avoid deep processing? Then there's trusting your gut over basic hard evidence. And finally, repeating mistakes while blaming everyone else. That last one shows zero metacognition, meaning zero ability to actually reflect on your own thoughts. These habits, guys, they put your mind on a permanent low-functioning autopilot. Section 2, the trap of cognitive bias. Now, the most dangerous of these traps is something called Myside Bias. The human brain naturally defaults to confirming its pre-existing beliefs, rather than updating its views based on new data. It's just how we're wired. It is remarkably easy to only look for arguments that favor your side and completely ignore any integrated, balanced perspectives out there. Now, you would probably assume that people with high IQs are better protected against this Myside bias, right? Well, wrong. Data from researcher Keith Stanovich shockingly reveals that high intelligence does absolutely nothing to protect a person from Myside bias. Nothing. People with high IQs are just as highly susceptible to it and honestly, just as poor at integrating opposing perspectives as people with average IQs. They basically just use their massive intellect to better justify the biased beliefs they already hold. Crazy, right? Section 3, why EQ matters more. Because raw intellect clearly isn't enough, we really need to pivot to the missing pillar of the mind. While IQ handles the logic, pattern recognition, and processing speed, EQ provides the self-awareness, emotional regulation, and empathy. Think of it like this. IQ helps you learn technical skills, sure, but EQ provides the impulse control required to actually apply that logic when you're under pressure. If you can't regulate your emotions, your fast, impulsive brain is always going to hijack your slow, logical brain, every single time. And this whole idea is perfectly captured by the concept of intellectual humility. It's the simple but incredibly profound willingness to just say, I don't know. Research actually shows that individuals with high intellectual humility and cognitive reflection are far more likely to adapt to new evidence. They're more likely to trust complex science too, because they aren't blinded by their own ego. They literally leave the door open to being wrong. Section 4, upgrading your operating system. So how do we actually fix this? How do we build this kind of discipline? Well, I want you to anchor your mind on this number, 10. This is the 10-minute rule. In psychology, there's this fascinating concept called desirable difficulty. Look, when you hit a mental wall, your first instinct is probably to immediately Google the answer or just ask someone for help. But if you force yourself to struggle with a problem for just 10 minutes, that intense spike of frustration is the exact biological moment your brain is physically forging new neural pathways. Friction is literally required for cognitive growth. Let's walk through the first 3 steps of our cognitive optimization protocol. Step 1 is active consumption. This means stop mindlessly scrolling. Force a pause and ask yourself, is this actually right? How do I use this? Step 2 is embrace friction, utilizing that 10-minute rule we just talked about before you go running for help. And step 3, check your ego. You have to practice calmly accepting mistakes. Fighting to always be right just locks you into this defensive mindset. Dropping your ego, on the other hand, creates a beautiful, expansive mindset where new ideas can actually take root. Continuing with the protocol, step 4 is connect the dots. True intelligence synthesizes concepts from totally different fields, so you've got to explore outside your usual bubble. Step 5 is active recall. If you want to build genuine memory retention, close your source material and try to explain the concept out loud. And finally, step 6, zero input rest. You absolutely must step away from your screens. When you completely shut off external stimuli, like say taking a walk without your phone, you activate the brain's default mode network. This is basically a background system that silently processes complex information and hunts for solutions while you're resting. So at the end of the day, the systems of true intelligence aren't just locked away in your genetics. They are actively built through your daily habits. Your IQ might determine the raw brightness of your searchlight. But are you brave enough to point it at your own blind spots today?